Welcome back to 8158 Podcast Stories of Sacrifice, the podcast where we honor the men, women, and families who serve, protect, and sacrifice every single day. Today's episode is a powerful reminder that healing doesn't always happen in an office. Sometimes it happens in a barn, beside a horse, in the quiet moments where trust is rebuilt and burdens finally get lighter. We're sitting down with Horses for Heroes, an incredible nonprofit dedicated to supporting veterans, first responders, and the children of those who serve through equine-assisted programs that focus on connection, confidence, and mental wellness. For many in the first responder and military community, asking for help isn't easy. Horses for Heroes creates a space where healing happens naturally, without pressure, without judgment, and often without words at all. In this conversation, we'll talk about how Horses for Heroes began, why horses play such a powerful role in trauma recovery, the impact those programs have on families and service members, and why community support matters more now than ever. If you've ever wondered what real hands-on healing looks like, or if you or someone you love is navigating life after service, this episode is for you. So take a breath, settle in, and let's get into today's story.
Disclaimer. This episode discusses suicidal ideations and extreme content that may be triggering to some. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to 8158 Stories of Sacrifice, where we honor the bravery of the first responders and the families who stand behind them. Real people, real stories, real heroes. This is 8158.
Welcome back to another episode of 8158 Podcast, Stories of Sacrifice. Today we have Bill. Bill, former military, and he is also a former firefighter. He does have a foundation that is called Horses4Heroes, all one word. How's it going, Bill?
Pretty good, Rico. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. It is an honor to have you come on to the podcast, especially when you are helping first responders and vets dealing with emotional traumas and emotional support type of stuff. So give us a little background. You know, we know that you were in the military. How long did you serve in the military?
So I did 4 years active and 6 years in the reserves with the world's greatest United States Navy, including my time in the Navy, 28 years total in fire service between, dry side and wet side. So seen a lot, done a lot, been a lot of places, had a good time.
Yeah, it's pretty good experiences being in the Navy and with your fire service.
Oh, yeah. 19, 20 years old, getting paid to travel the world. A couple of my favorite places to go was Singapore and Perth, Australia. And just, if I'd never joined the military, it's probably places that I never would have gone.
Yeah, I've never seen any of those places, but I've only seen Puerto Rico. That's about it. And the United States.
I flew over Puerto Rico.
It is beautiful there. It is hot. It's Hades, but it is beautiful.
Yeah, I went down to St. Croix last October, and so quick pit stop there in San Juan, Puerto Rico. It was, hot, muggy.
Definitely. Can you tell us how you started Horses for Heroes? How was that founded, and what inspired the program back in 2006?
2006 is when the idea for it was first coming to light, and what that was from is going back a few years before that. I was working and living out in the San Diego area, and I volunteered at a place called Bonita's Equestrian Therapy for Handicap, or BETH for short. And they dealt with kids that diagnosed MR, Asperger's, Downs, all that different stuff. And seeing the miracles of what would happen to these kids while they were interacting with the horses. One of my favorite stories to talk about, this mother brought in her 12-year-old daughter. She'd been nonverbal since she was 2 years old. Now, she was expressive. If you asked her a yes or no question, if the answer was yes, if the answer was no, then she'd, twist her face up at you. A friend of hers recommended, hey, go try out this vet, see what it's all about. Maybe, it's something, because her mom had tried everything to that point. Went through, did the intake, all that stuff. And then I look at her and I was like, hey, you want to go see a horse? Okay, that means yes. So we go outside and, she sees the horse that's in the stocks. In the setup that we had there, there was wheelchair ramps that would go up so we could put wheelchair-bound kids on the horses as well. So I look at her and said, well, do you want to go pet a horse? And once again, she go over there, she starts petting on the horse, all this stuff. And finally I look at her and said, hey, do you want to ride a horse? And she, just got all sorts of giddy about it. So we get her all set up, safely sitting on the horse. And especially because it was her first time, had a lead walker and then 2 side walkers. Lead walker taking care of the horse, side walkers just in case she were to fall off so she doesn't hit the ground. As we're walking through the gate into the outdoor arena, I look over and I see her mom walking out of the office towards where we're going. Within about 30 seconds of walking through that gate, we found out how much she loves her mom and dad, what her favorite subject at school is, who her best friend is, what her favorite pet is. I mean, just going and going and going. She went from nonverbal child to, oh God, shut up, preteen. And I look back, mom's in a heap on the ground, just bawling her eyes out. I mean, she'd gone 10 years without hearing her daughter's voice. Over the next couple months, every time she'd get on a horse, she would start talking. About 6 months into it, she finally started opening up at home. I ended up moving out to Indiana shortly after that, so I don't know what progressed from there. Found a couple places out here that kind of similar programs. Thought, I'm a volunteer there just because it is a great experience. And with all the pretty much bad stuff that you see in public safety, it was great to see something like this, uplift your spirits, all that. Didn't really like the way that they ran the programs of the 2 places that I went to check out. And so just kind of faded away from it. Well, a couple of years later, start thinking about it of how can I get back into something like this? But not just with these kids, but this was when the news was starting to come out about horse therapy programs for veterans. And so I started doing some looking into that and all that stuff and finding out what it's all about. And I was like, why don't we do that for us? It's crazy how much spending 15 minutes brushing a horse changes your mood. One of the things that, since going into this, tried to find research letters or publishings or whatever to try and explain how this goes, how and why this happens. The only thing that I discovered is horses, for lack of a better term, have the largest magnetic field of anything on the face of the earth. Human, animal, whatever. When you get within 6 foot of a horse, it picks up right away what your pulse rate is, what your respiratory rate is, and can tell whether or not you're tense and anxious. As you get closer, obviously they're going to feel it a lot more. But there's nothing out there that states how this feeling helps people calm down. How it brings that, that centering or that sense of peace. It just happens. Fast forward about 10 years, and I'd gone out to the National Fire Academy, took a communications class out there. There was a bunch of us from the class that we ended up staying real tight, and most of us are still in contact with each other today. Get a phone call one morning as I'm coming off shift. Pick up the phone. I was like, hey, dude, what's up? What's going on? Just getting off shift. He says, hey, man, you sitting down? I was like, yeah, why? What's up? He said, well, Matt just stood in front of his girlfriend and ate his Glock. Okay. And, we talked for a little bit. And when we got done talking, I, went to drive home. But this time, radio off, windows down. And then sat in my driveway for, I don't know, probably half hour before I went into the house. And that kind of started fueling this idea of, okay, we need to do something like this for public safety, first responders. And when I say public safety, I'm also including dispatch, crime scene techs, coroners, even extending into the emergency room for physicians, nurses, paramedics, and patient techs that work inside there. Because, yeah, granted, they don't get the dirty, nasty, mucky of the streets. It's a little bit of a cleaned up version, but they still, nonetheless, they're still seeing stuff in there. Met my now wife. We got together, started going over to her parents' house every so often, having dinner. Get, call from my wife one night, says, hey, when you get off shift tomorrow, Mom and Dad want us to come over for dinner. Nothing out of the ordinary. The calls that we went on that night were, one of them was another suicide. So it got my wheels cranking. I ended up not sleeping that night just because my wheels started cranking. Got home in the morning and started talking to my wife. I was like, hey, your folks, they got the stalls, they got the barn. Do you think they would let us do something like this? She's like, well, I don't know. Talk to them tonight at dinner. Come over here, get through dinner, all that. Her mom comes walking back out of the kitchen, sits down at the table, and her dad looks at us and says, hey, we're going to sell the house and you guys get first dibs at it. I was like, well, damn, okay. So go to the bank. Bank's like, yep, we'll give you the money for it. And so we bought my wife's childhood home from her parents. And, we're sitting out here on 7 acres. We've got 17 stalls, an indoor arena, all that different stuff. Then the fight with the IRS started. We tried to do the simple form at first, screwed it up, dotted a T and crossed an I instead of dotting an I and crossing a T. Well, they don't let you know what your little mistake is. They send you the whole thing back, send you your check back, and say, well, now you have to do the long form. So we went through, did the long form. It was about a 9-month wait after we got that completed. The letter showed up November 24th, 2024, that officially November 14th, 2024, we achieved our 501c3 status, and then they backdated it all the way back to April of 23 when we had initially applied. Yeah, since then, it's just been setting up events, reaching out to different parties. We had kind of a kickoff event here. We had the president of the Professional Firefighters Union of Indiana, a couple peer support guys from fire and law enforcement, and then one of our local state representatives came out, did a walkthrough, introduced them what was going on and everything. Got sent out of town for work. This was about the time that, hey, is TikTok staying? Is TikTok going? All that stuff. I put up a video on TikTok of, hey, not sure what's going to happen at the end of the day, but one thing I can tell you for sure is Horses for Heroes is always going to be here. We're always going to have your back. We're always going to be available to you. And our mission is always going to be, we are here today to help walk you through to tomorrow. When I was on the department, I was the honor guard commander for my department. I'd gone up to the Milwaukee Honor Guard Clinic a few times. Brent Jones, who's the founder of that clinic, very, very good friend, he called me up and he goes, hey, dude, what's this Horses for Heroes thing? So I told him about it. He goes, cool. April 8th, have your ass up here. You're presenting. Like, okay. Yeah. It wasn't the, hey, do you want to come up and do this? It was, you are doing this. You are coming up here. You are presenting this. That was very hard for me to do. Like I said at the beginning, I got pensioned off because of PTSD. And one of the things that they do at the Milwaukee Honor Guard Clinic is they have a section where peer support comes up and talks. And they give you all these tools and all these resources and all these references and all this different stuff. It's great. It's wonderful if you use it. I was that guy at my department. Hey, dude, you're not feeling good? Go talk to somebody. Get it off your chest. Hey, man, you look like you're a little sluggish. Everything good? You need to talk? I didn't take my own advice. And it ended up coming to a crashing halt. There was one time where the bells literally saved my life. I was sitting at the station, and I had the noose ready to go. I had a note taped to my chest that said, you win. And I was getting ready to jump over the railing in the apparatus bay. My wife was 7 months pregnant at the time. I almost never met my youngest son. On the way back from the run, I was like, holy shit. Okay, I can't do this. I can't leave my family with the unanswerable question. That's a question that always comes up, man. Why do you do that? I don't know. I can't answer it. I thought everything was great. I thought everything was fine. He was that guy at work that pushed everybody else to go talk to people. He seemed fine. I don't know. So pulled my head out of that, or at least I thought I did. 2 years after that, when, like I said, everything came crashing down, actually had an off-duty injury. I broke my wrist training a horse, and there's a little bitty bone right here called the scaphoid, and it has 3 capillaries that run through it. Now, if you look at this wrist, I broke this bone in 1998 in Australia getting thrown off a horse. I broke this bone in 2023 in Indianapolis getting thrown off a horse. Or was it 22? Yeah, it was September 22. Go to the doc, all that stuff. Was in a cast for 18 weeks. Well, because I was off that long, I had to go do return to duty physical. Doctor didn't like the answer that I gave to some of his questions. It's like, hey, hold on a second. Goes out of the room, comes back in, says, hey, I called your department. They agreed. We're going to have you come back in a couple days and do the psych eval. Okay, yeah, whatever. No big deal. Come back in a couple days later, go through, do the psych eval, scored a 53 out of 80. for PTSD. Don't remember my scores for depression and anxiety, but they were significantly high. Go to sit down with the head shrinker after he read through everything, and he's like, "Yeah, you're not going back to work. It's over." Already dealing with the stuff that I was dealing with, and then getting told that I can't go back to work. I can't go back to the career that I love, the field that I love, doing what I love, and it wasn't my choice. It was somebody else's choice at that moment. Now, a couple years later, sitting back realizing, no, that was my choice, because I chose not to take my own advice. I chose not to follow the advice of the peer support presentation that the Milwaukee Honor Guard presents every year. Unknowingly, I was making the choice for myself. The hardest part about it was having to go back and face Brent at the Honor Guard clinic. My middle son, when he was 2 years old, was diagnosed with brain cancer. He just turned 9 back in June, and he was actually about a week and a half ago. We had his final MRI and oncology appointment. So he's released. He's a pain in my butt, but you know what? I will take that every day of the week, knowing that he is cancer free and walking this earth.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Brent and the other instructors, while that was going on, it was phone calls. One of the guys came by and visited. They took a hat collection together after my son got discharged from the hospital, and they went in and they bought him this little side-by-side looking Power Wheels thing and had it all decorated up, decaled up. They put lights on it, a little siren on it, all that, and it was great. The 2 years from the time I got pensioned off until Brent called me up and told me that I was presenting, I had to fight with the demons of, I failed him. I didn't use his tools. I didn't take his advice. I didn't do this. I didn't, all this. He's going to be pissed at me. He's never going to talk to me again, even though he'd call me up every couple months. Hey, bro, how you doing? Oh, man, I'm pretty good. Chilling, trying to get through, blah, blah, blah. A couple of the other instructors up there, would hit me up through social media or whatever. Hey, man, how's things going? Been watching your stuff, seeing what you're doing. That's cool. Man, come on up. We'd love to see you, blah, blah, blah. And, I'd always be like, yeah, I'll see if I can make plans to do it. In the back of my head, I'm like, I ain't going up there. I failed Brent. I failed a man that I supremely look up to and respect. So when he told me I didn't have a choice, got up there, finally had a face-to-face with him, and I knew what he was going to say, 100 times over. But I looked at him, I was like, dude, I've got to say this to you. I know what you're going to say in return, but I've got to say this to you. And he's, okay, what's up? I said, man, you put on this peer support function as part of the clinic. You give us all the tools. I didn't use the tools. I failed you. I'm sorry. I love you, brother. Will you forgive me? He jumped up out of his chair, gave me probably one of the biggest hugs that I've ever had from somebody. And he said, the fact that you are standing here right now means you did not fail. This is not failure. He goes, I ain't even worried about the job. You're standing here. You're a success. And tomorrow when you get up in front of everybody and you do your presentation, you're going to be an even bigger success. Did the presentation the next day, had some great feedback from that. Since then, have just been putting little events together here and there, partially for fundraising, partially for getting the word out there of who we are, what we do. That's kind of the long and short of it.
Long and short of it, yeah. As a name, Horses for Heroes. What does that mean to you personally?
So the funny thing about it is I absolutely despise the word hero, because people sit there and be like, man, you're a hero, you're a hero. No, I'm a guy that did a job. I'm an idiot that crawled down a hallway that was full of fire to get my rocks off. But I have to give the credit to my wife. And she goes, I know you hate it, but think about how the community views, how do they view you? How do they view police officers? How do they view the military? All this stuff. Okay, fine. And so we came up with it. The reason for using the number 4 instead of the word for is we also run a business out of our house, and it's called Four Locos Ranch, because at the time that we picked the business name, there was 4 of us. Before joke that at the time, she was my girlfriend. We really had no intention of getting married because of our past history with some horrific relationships. But I joke that, at that point she daddy locked me. So we already had the business name before she got pregnant. And, there was 4 of us. So there was me and my son, her and her daughter. And this was before our now son came to be. And so it was like, okay, 4 locos. And there's 4 of us. It's kind of a crazy blended family. I grew up in the Southwest. go with ranch instead of farm. So that's why it's heroes, the number 4, or horses, the number 4 heroes, instead of horses for heroes.
Can you tell me how your mission has evolved since those early days? What stays the same and what has changed?
So what stays the same is our foundational base of what we are. It doesn't matter who you are, what time of day it is, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the morning, whether it's a phone call, knock on the door, whatever, because you're at that moment where either that Glock looks tasty or, you want to see how far your neck might stretch from the rope. You're just like, nope, I can't do that. I've got to find something. Come across Horses for Heroes. We are a zero cost program, because if you're in that mindset, what's the last thing you need on your kitchen table? Another bill.
Yeah.
So you show up. I don't care if you show up so drunk you pour yourself out of your car. You're not going to have another drink while you're here. I don't care if we sit here on the front porch and you don't say a word, but you just bawl your eyes out. You don't have to say anything. If you want to talk, we'll talk. I'm not a professional anything. Like I tell everybody, I'm an idiot with an idea. But I'm an idiot with an idea because I've been there. And I want to provide, it's kind of available in the area, but it's between $200 and $400 per session, which is a huge deterrent for a lot of people. So I want to provide that at no cost. Yeah, you want to talk? We'll sit wherever, whether it's here on the front porch, in the arena, down by the pond, out front of the barn. I don't care. Where are you going to be comfortable? We are strong type A personalities. So sometimes we hit that of just, I got to do something with my hands. Not that we are ever soliciting for free labor in any way, shape, or form. But one of the things that I've found in doing some research while pushing forward with this is what we lose, especially in the first responder public safety community, is we lose that dopamine of seeing progress on something. Right. We're all very familiar with the term stop loss. The bullets stop flying, the car stopped crashing, the house stops burning. But how many times have you seen a rescue crew come walking back out after the fire's out, take their gear off, throw on carpenter belts, go back in and start rebuilding the house? Never. It's not what we do. Engine crew, ladder crew, medic crew, whatever. We don't. Fire's out, it's done, everybody's in service, boom, you go back to the house. Depending on the time of day, you sit around the table, you bust on each other about maybe a mistake that you made on scene, but you don't see the rebuild progress from your own hands. So we offer that here. We've got 17 occupied stalls right now. That's a lot of horse manure. Yeah. It takes 15 minutes to pick a stall. Not that you have to do that, but that's one of the options available. If you just want to rake the aisleways, get up the hay shaft that's left. These things are slobs when they eat. If you want to go out in the field and help me with maintaining the fence or even building a new fence. I had one individual come out and I was building a 50-foot section of fence. I could have had it done in hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. But this guy comes out and it took us 4 hours to build that fence. We started off head down working, because like I said, it basically you direct how it goes when you get here. Because I don't know you. I don't know the specifics of what you're going through. I'm not a therapist, so I'm not even going to begin to pretend to ask, the head shrinker questions. Just going to let it flow. We ended up, like I said, taking about 4 hours to build that 50-foot section of fence because he just opened up. We got done, and the guy's wife showed up to pick him up. And, he's, coming back out, and she looked at him. She's like, "What have you guys been doing?" He looks at us, says, "Babe, for the first time in 10 years, I feel useful. We built a fence line." He showed me, the difference between building this type of fence as opposed to, building that 6-foot panel fence that you see in the cookie cutter vinyl villages. We've done that. As far as anything that we've changed along the way, well, we incorporated our law enforcement liaison because, I'm a fireman. Yes, we talk to cops on scene. We've got that street talk with each other, but I don't speak cop. Just the same that the person who's our Leo liaison doesn't speak fire. That was one of the things that I wanted to bring in to make the program more accessible and more inviting as a whole. as we progress forward, found out from my wife, who's a veterinary nurse, I didn't realize the epidemic of suicide in the veterinary community between vet techs, vet nurses, and veterinarians, was 100% oblivious to it. I thought, man, these people are happy. You bring in Fluffy to them, they get to work on Fluffy, they send Fluffy along the way. How can you not be happy about that? And then she let me into the dark side of veterinary medicine. The people that come in and they're like, oh, you're just doing this for money and all you want to do is kill my animal and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that can weigh on you. That's where the veterinary portion of it comes in too. We are avid Jeepers. We've got a 4-door Wrangler. We love off-road and the Jeep community as a whole. So we've incorporated having Jeep runs that end here for fundraiser events. This year, 2026, we're going to do 4 different fundraising events. 3 of them we're picking other charities that have, or other nonprofits that have a similar mission to ours as the benefactor. And then the 4th event that we have is going to be raising money for Horses4Heroes. And it's a great time. The Jeep community is an awesome community. So that's some more of how we've kind of expanded.
So what kind of training or protocols do you have in place for working with participants who have PTSD, trauma, or any other complex needs?
As far as the training side of it, it is informal, but I stay in very close contact with my own therapist. And she is not one of these that's just, oh, sit back on the couch, tell me about this, what did your mom and dad do to you? What kind of horrific, gross things have you seen? Oh my gosh, please don't talk about those too much because you're going to give me nightmares. Her background for the first 15 or so years of her career, she was a forensic therapist for children who were victims of sex trafficking. So, she's told me a few stories that, it's disgusting. Hi, yes, hello, my service dog, Dutch Shepherd, Maverick. I brought it up to her. I was like, look, this is what I want to do. But I don't want to fall into a situation where at the end of the day, the whole liability aspect of it. And so she's given me some notes. She's like, hey, if situation X comes up, then you need to call 911. You need to get medics there right away. You need to get law enforcement there right away. Because if you're not doing that, then you're looking at the liability. You're not covered under the Good Samaritan Act. Because one of the questions that I also brought up to her, one of the things that we want to do here and I've got to give Cache Coffee Company out of Utah all the credit for this because they're the ones that gave me the idea for it because they do it, is we're looking for a donation of a gun safe, not just a gun cabinet, but an actual locking safe. You're in that moment of, you look tasty. You can come over here, you can drop it off, and it'll be locked away. She looked into the legal aspect side of it as far as what is needed for that person to come back and say, hey, I feel better. Can I have my firearm back? And there really isn't anything because we're not a clinical situation.
Right.
We kind of fall under that, hey, we're going to be a friend that's going to hold your firearm until you get past this and feel like it's safe for you to maintain a firearm in your vehicle, residence, whatever, going forward. She's the one that I bounce everything off of. I tell her this all the time. I love to hate you and I hate to love you because she will straight out be blunt and call me on my BS.
Yeah.
I've been seeing her for a couple of years now, and it's to a point that I walk in and she's like, oh, hey, Bill, how you doing? Oh, I'm good. No, you're not. What's going on? Well, I don't want to talk about it. Well, too bad you're here. We're going to talk about it. In the beginning, she obviously wasn't that pushy because she was building the rapport with me and everything. But now it's, there's sometimes I'll walk in there and be like, hey, how you doing? She's like, yeah, it's going to be a you day. Yeah, if you don't mind. And we'll just sit there and BS. And I wasn't aware of the reason she was doing it at first, but she was doing it because of what we're doing here.
Right.
And kind of the master grasshopper, hey, here, I'm going to guide you and teach you this, but I'm not going to teach you this. I'm going to guide you so you discover it and you learn it and you become confident in it. We do have some very strict protocols in place if a female shows up, because my wife is here with me. All the initial interaction involves my wife being there. Not only is it a safety thing for us as a whole, but it's also a comfort thing for the female that shows up here. We do offer within a limited range. But if you call up, you're like, hey, dude, but I'm too sloshed to drive, but I really want to come out there, we'll come get you. But there's going to be two of us showing up to come get you. And it's kind of goes back to, if it's a guy that we're going to pick up, then, it's two guys or a man and a woman that go to pick up. If it's a woman that is calling saying, hey, can you come get me and bring me to your place? Then without question, it's a man and a woman, or even two women that go pick her up. All just protection for everybody. Kind of been the way that we've been running things and dealing with it and taking care of it.
Right. Now, with running a facility with horses and land, camps, and the outreach, it must come with some unique challenges. What have been the biggest operational hurdles for Horses4Heroes?
First and foremost was getting horses that we could trust. These are 800 to 1,200 pound animals. And yes, they are capable of killing you. The horses that we have, I say 5 horses, it's 4 horses and a mule. My wife loves that mule. She irritates me, but she's great. Funny, female mule, but her name's Norman. Because if you've ever seen the movie City Slickers, Norman the calf, that's who Norman the mule is named after. We've got Blackie, who is a 20-year-old Rocky Mountain. And when we went to buy him a couple of years back, the old man that was selling him to us at the time, our middle son was 6 years old. And the old man looks over and he goes, hey, you throw that boy up on him. That horse ain't gonna do nothing but walk around all day long. He popped them reins like crazy, kicked the hell out of him, and he's just gonna walk. We don't know this horse. We don't know you. So my wife and I rode him first, and he did great. He did everything we asked of him. And then we found a real nice, soft area, and we threw our middle boy up on him. And sure enough, he got up there and quit. Yes, hi. No.
Dogs.
Oh, yeah. Here. Yeah. This is Maverick.
Hey, Maverick.
So we threw him up there. And sure enough, he went to kicking and popping the reins, trying to get him to go faster. And Blackie's like, no, we're walking. That's all you get out of me. So he's one that we use in the program. We actually got 2 Mustangs, which if you know anything about Mustangs, they come in from the wild, all that stuff. One of the 2 that we've got, we're already putting small kids on him to use for lessons and shows and stuff like that. He's as gentle as the day is long. We've got Pop-Tart. Pop-Tart is our little Appaloosa that was born here on the ranch April 19th. And he's the sweetest, most docile, walk up, hang all over him, mess with his ears, grab his tail, slap his sides. And he's just like, you love me. And, we'll sit there and just let you rub on him all day long. So for our horses that we own, those are the ones that we use. We've got a couple of boarders who have extremely docile horses that they've said, if you have a group that comes out here and you need more than your 5 horses, you can use ours. And same thing, we did the same temperament testing and all that stuff with them. And so they're what we like to refer to as bomb-proof horses, but because there's never the absolute 100% certainty, that's why we don't allow for, the picking of the feet. Even if the insurance said, yes, you can have riding, even though you don't have a therapeutic riding instructor, we would not have riding just because you get into, let's say, guy comes out on the job and he gets thrown and breaks an arm. Well, what's that going to do for his psyche? I went out there for help and shit, now I'm off work for 4 to 6 weeks because I got thrown off a horse,
Right.
So that's why we do things the way that we do as far as that's concerned. People that bring out firearms, don't get me wrong, we're 100% Second Amendment friendly house and facility, but you need to leave it in your car unless you're coming in to say, please hold this until this clears up a little bit and I don't feel like seeing what it tastes like. Those are some of the protections that we've put in place, some of the hurdles that we've had to face. One other hurdle is because of our business side, we do have riding lessons that take place out here. So if someone shows up while that's going on, well, we're not going to go in the arena. We'll either, sit up here on the front porch of the house or the back porch of the house, or we'll go out to the back side of the property and sit by the pond. When the lessons clear out, if they still are like, hey, man, kind of want to hang on a horse. All right, let's go inside. Let's grab one of them and then we'll do that.
Now, we know that funding is always a critical part in nonprofits. How do you fund your work, and what are some of the greatest funding needs you have right now?
Straight donations. We do sell a little bit of merchandise. We've got some shirts, hats, tumblers. Echo Outfitters hooked us up with some stuff. We went down to the Smoky Mountain Jeep invasion back in August and ran across them. They are a veteran first responder owned business. So I was talking with them, and they're like, hey, here's some stuff. One of the things that they've offered to do is they've got this cooler that either the 20 quart or like this backpack one that they will etch our logo into a pad and attach it to the cooler. We sell it. We keep the profits above what it costs them to build it, do the etching and all that stuff. Unfortunately, we haven't moved any of the coolers. So if you're interested, they're just as good as Yetis, but they're not near as expensive. Like I said, t-shirts, caps, stickers, tumbler cups, stuff like that. Different places that we go to. It's like this last weekend, we were at a horse show just south of Indianapolis and had tables set up with shirts and hats and all the stuff laid out on it. And sold a couple things. Our biggest funding needs, like I said, would love to get a gun safe. No, nothing crazy, outlandish. As much as I would love to have that big Texas whole room with, 500 different weapons in it, that no. I think the smallest that they make is like a 10 gun safe. Something like that would be awesome. We just applied for the Eli Lilly Endowment Fund between a drainage project that we need to get done, a storage building, and upgrading our tractor. Put in for $65,000 to cover all of those. We should be hearing back from them pretty soon on that, because we had a volunteer come out that I don't know how she's involved or if she's involved or whatever, but she flat out, she goes, you need to do this now because Lilly still has millions of dollars this year that they need to give away. She had mentioned that there was another organization that asked for about $100,000. I guess if it's something new that they haven't heard of before, they send out a representative to come and check out and see what it is. I'm like, yeah, send them all day long. I would think that if it's, don't send them, something shady's going on. But you know what? My front door is open. Come take a look. And this is to anybody that has questions of what we're doing. If you want to come out and see, give me a call, knock on the door, send an email, whatever. I will 100% gladly show you the entirety of everything. We had an individual accuse us of not being a legitimate non-for-profit. If you want to see our letters from the state of Indiana and from the IRS, I will gladly show them to you. So with Lilly, like I said, this one organization had asked for $100,000. They came out, checked it out. They ended up cutting them a check for like $300,000 because they believed in what was going on. Do I expect that to happen? Nope, not in a million years. But they come out and they want to cut me a check for 3 times what I'm asking for. First, I'm going to have to pick myself back up off the ground. Second, I'm going to have to, blow my nose and wipe my eyes because I will flat out ugly cry on something like that. But
Pull your foot out your mouth.
100% of it will be going to taking care of the horses, taking care of the property, advertising. One of the other things about it that I'm passionate about is we're trying to develop enough of a bank that we don't talk. We don't go to see professionals. We don't do stuff like that. And a lot of it is we don't want anybody to find out that we spend our own money. We definitely don't want anybody to know that, we used insurance. And EAP is not exactly as secretive as what it's put out to be. So we want to have enough of a bank built up that if you come out and you get to the point of like, either you say, hey, I'm ready to talk to somebody professional, or I look at you and be like, hey, dude, you're at the end of my abilities. We need to move you into a professional setting, that we pay for the first 2 to 3 sessions. That way, first off, it's not coming out of your bank account. Second, you don't have to use your insurance. And third, there's not somebody that's going to know, hey, so-and-so used EAP to go talk to head shrinker John Doe or whatever. So it gives that little bit longer of anonymity of what's going on and getting their foot in the door to start getting that cup emptied out. And it kind of goes back, roll back on that a little bit. You come out here and, let's say tomorrow you show up, you pull up in the driveway, you knock on the door, I answer, hey, Rico, what's up? Hey, Bill, dude, I need this. Okay, first things first, insurance sucks. I have to have you sign a release of liability. The difference between our release of liability for Horses for Heroes versus our release of liability for Four Locos Ranch is as soon as you get done signing that release of liability and then checking off what statistical group you fall underneath, that paper goes and gets locked away. There's only myself and one other person that has access to that location. I will never reveal who that other person is. From that point going forward, you're given an alphanumeric identifier. And I always 100% of the time say, your alphanumeric identifier is going to be XRP 123, because that's one that I will never, ever use for a participant that shows up here. But it's to give that example of, okay, how do I know who you are? We follow, because I'm kind of a nerd, we follow the National Institute of Health guidelines that they set in place for research studies that involve human participants, which is even more stringent than HIPAA. HIPAA, you can be like, oh yeah, this guy that we picked up, blah, 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 but you can't sit there and like, yeah, white guy, black hair, about 5'9", all this stuff. The under NIH, I can't even sit there and say, yeah, we had a guy come over. Nope. We had an individual come out. Well, with a veteran, public safety, we had an individual come out. And that individual was here for, an undisclosed amount of time. And after that individual stated they felt better, the individual left. Well, how long were they here for? An undisclosed amount of time. Well, man, what were they, like fire, police, veteran, active duty? It was XRP 123. Well, what's that mean? That means what it means. You don't like that answer? That's not my problem.
Right.
If it's said here, it dies here. Now, yes, there are exceptions to that. The legally reportables. Harm to self, harm to others, any type of abuse, physical, emotional, sexual, what have you, we are legally obligated to report that. And pretty much everybody who's in these line of work understands what the legally reportables are. Had one individual come out, was like, man, they talk about, if you're sitting at this place, everybody's kind of on the same level and blah, blah, blah. But, then a chief officer walks in and hears you saying some stuff and, then you get in trouble for it. Well, why is it not going to be the same here? Well, you know what? Here, it's my rules. I'm the chief, and nobody's going to tell me how those rules are going to change. And if the people who want to come in and tell me how the rules are going to change don't like the fact that the rules aren't going to change, unless you show me legal precedents as to why they must change, then have a nice day. But if you want to be here as a supporter, as a helper, stuff like that, and you want to conform to what we're doing, then by all means, you're welcome to join us. Just the only thing we ask is you maintain confidentiality and you have the passion to do what we're doing.
Exactly. Got to have some kind of anonymity when it comes to things like that, because we know the stigma and how that stigma is within the field. And
yeah, if you're sitting at the kitchen table and you just come back from a gnarly run, you're like, man, that run's screwing with my head. How many of those guys at the table are going to kind of sit back and be like, is this guy going to crawl a hall with me or is he going to bail?
Right.
And you don't need that. Okay. So you come out here. Hey, man, this run messed with me. All right, cool. What happened? Okay, cool. What can I do for you? How can I help you get this off your shoulders? Most of us are fully aware it's never going to go away. All of us that work in the field, we have a closet full of that run that is never going to leave us. Right. But that's where we're kind of that intermediate between life and getting in with a mental health professional. And then going back to the whole thing of, we will work with you tonight to get you through tomorrow.
We will return after this quick ad break.
The William H. Bill Butler Jr. Foundation is on a mission to honor first responders and support those who serve. We provide scholarships for families who have lost a hero in the line of duty, is on a mission to honor first responders and support those who serve. To rebuild their future. We provide scholarships for families who have lost a hero in the line of duty, offer second chances to juvenile offenders who are working to rebuild their future, through generous donations and the sale of merchandise. We're building a community that uplifts, empowers, and creates lasting impact. Through generous donations and the sale of merchandise, we're building a community that uplifts, empowers, and creates lasting mission as well. Visit 8158podcast.com to donate or shop today. You can be together a part of this mission as well. Those who serve. Visit 8158podcast.com to donate or shop today. Together, we can support those who serve, honor those we've lost, and give hope.
Behind
to those
every
who need
badge
us.
is a story, and behind every story is a sacrifice. This is the 8158 podcast, where we honor the lives and legacies of first responders and their families. If our mission speaks to your heart, if these stories move you like they move us, join us on Patreon. For just $5 a month, you'll get ad-free listening, exclusive merchandise, behind-the-scenes content, and video episodes only available to our patrons. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement, and you can be a part of it. Support us at patreon.com/8158podcast. Let's continue to share the stories that deserve to be heard.
Yeah, it's cliche, but I'd rather be dragging my butt all day tomorrow, knowing that I stayed up all night with you, than waking up in the morning and hearing, firefighter so-and-so from IFD was found dead this morning due to a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Don't. Yes, you know what? 100%, the stigma is still there. But there's more and more of us that are popping up saying, you know what, that stigma can kiss my ass. Because I will tell you from firsthand experience, that stigma cost me my career. And that stigma almost took my life. But my career's over, and I'm moving forward in this direction.
How does working with the horses help participants rebuild identity, especially when the service ends and their roles change?
I don't know that I can really give you an answer to that one, just from the simple fact that it is very different for everybody. The only reason I talk about one person specific is because she has given me permission to reveal somewhat of her journey from when she first started coming here. She's in law enforcement. And that first time that she came out here, she showed up in her POV. Didn't drive her car, any of that, showed up. But soon as she stepped out of that vehicle and turned and looked at me, it was that, hard back, shoulders back, head up high, and almost that robotic, "Hi, how are you?" And we talked a little bit. We walked around a little bit, not saying anything. Introduced her to, kind of just sat here and I know it's going to be crazy, it's going to sound, but just let the world breathe her, in that space where this isn't a police station, it's not a firehouse, it's not a jail, it's not a hospital, it's a chunk of dirt, out in the open. And it's sit here and just drop it. Get it off of you, get it out of you. Now, if you want to start talking, start talking. She ended up gravitating towards one of the horses, and I just sat back and watched. And, the horse walked up to her in the pasture. They interacted for a while. She wanted to go back and see the pond. So we went back there, and she opened up a little bit more for a little bit longer. Obviously, I'm not going to reveal a single thing that we talked about because, A, nothing was legally reportable, and B, it's nobody's business what she said. And that's the way that it is for every single individual that has or will come out here. 3.5 hours later, we made our way back to her vehicle, and she was slumped. She was relaxed. Her head was down. Her shoulders were rolled. Her back was not rigid. And it wasn't the mechanical, grip and one pop shake. It was, the two hands grabbing the one hand and saying thank you. And she left. She's been back several times. One of the things that we did specifically for her is a group donated a bunch of benches to us. Well, I took one of the benches and put it out in the pasture where she likes to sit and just read a book and let the horses come up and go do as they please. And so she came out here and was like, "Hey, got you a bench to sit on." I was like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Hey, do me a favor, paint it however you want." She's like, "What?" I said, "Paint it however you want. You can put your department on it, you can put your name on it, you can put, so-and-so was here, you put, this is my bench, stay off. Whatever you want to do to this bench, paint it." And she was like, she goes, "That sounds like super nerdy, but that sounds like the absolute coolest, nicest thing that anybody's ever said to me." Well, your bench. Do what you want. And, she's had about 40 different ideas, so she hasn't painted it yet. But she's like, "I'm going to get it done one of these days." And I told her, I said, "Hey, winter's getting close. I'm going to have to bring it inside so it doesn't get covered in snow and ice and cracked up and all that stuff." So, yeah, I mean, that's just one of the things.
That's pretty awesome. I'm glad that you have that kind of support available to people, especially officers and other veterans and first responders. Speaking of that, what advice would you give to a first responder or a veteran who is hesitant to seek help or to join a program like yours?
I do it because, so I'll put it this way, because we don't like talking about what's up with our heads and dealing with all that stuff. Think of it as a car. You're in your first day of recruit school. I come up to you and, you know what? Here's the keys to your brand new car. Congratulations. Whatever car you want it to be. You know, big old Ford Dually, little Geo Metro, Prius, a Jeep, whatever. But it is your vehicle. Now, here's a caveat. That is the only vehicle that you get for the next 20 to 35 years, depending on how long you want to do your career. Yeah. Only vehicle. So what do you need to do? Well, you need to maintain it. Excuse me. You got to get oil changes. Got to rotate the tires, check the brakes, check the fluids, all that different stuff. Replace fan belts. That run happens. Oh shit, your transmission just broke. Can you fix the transmission? Because I know I can't. Well, where do you take it? Go to a mechanic. Guess what? This is your car, and the mental health professionals out there are your mechanics. And this is the car that you're driving for the next 20 to 35 years of doing this career. And here's the reason why you need that mechanic or that mental health professional. Your average person sees between 5 and 8 mentally, emotionally traumatic events in their lifetime. Your average first responder sees 700 of those in a 20-year career. You need that mechanic without question, because we are not equipped to deal with that ourselves. In boot camp, they beat it into you that you are superhuman. In recruit school, they beat it into you that you are superhuman. They never tell you how to deal with it when Superman faces the kryptonite, or the transmission breaks on the car, or the engine throws a rod. So get that mechanic.
Absolutely. Yeah. From personal experience, it took me a lot of years to get help with my own mental health issues, and finally did. And I'm glad I did. I don't suffer from the panic attacks as bad as I used to.
Yeah.
And the other issues. But, dealing with that from personal experience and having childhood traumas and things, compounding traumas and such, it's better to get help.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Well, and that's one thing that they never tell you in boot camp or in recruit school is if you've had those childhood traumas, guess what you're going to run into out here in the field? You may possibly run across that kid that is multitude of bruises in various stages of healing. Was that you as a kid? You're dealing with a kid whose alcoholic parents are berating them and throwing stuff at them. And, well, they happened to something that was porcelain and it broke just before it hit them, and so it cut them, and they're bleeding profusely, and you got to take them in for stitches. Hey man, that happened to you as a kid? Well, yeah. What do you hear on that? Oh man, good thing you made it through that. You did that call good. When in all reality, you get back to the station, and that little kid that happened to starts screaming in the back of your head.
Right.
They prepare us how to walk down a hallway that's fully engulfed with flames to go find somebody to drag them out and either get them up and walk them to a car, take them to the medic so they can go to the hospital, or, God forbid, it's just a recovery. They teach us how to do it, but they never teach us how to deal with it.
Right.
And so it's pretty awesome that, and I'm seeing it more and more on TikTok, of, these different, I don't even want to say mental health professionals, but mental health supporters that are coming out and, like seeing your stuff and watching the stuff that you were throwing up on there and everything. And I'm like, that's cool. I'm going to follow this dude. And then, we message each other and holy crap, now you want to put me on a podcast. And yeah, here I am.
And there you are.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a good journey. It's been a tough journey. It's been a wonderful journey, and it's been a complete shit journey.
Yeah. Imagine.
I mean, obviously, with the exception of my middle son going through his cancer battle, there's not much that I would change outside of taking my own advice. And who knows, maybe I'd still be doing the Horses for Heroes thing, but I'd still be on the job. There was a good while that I sat here and I was like, I don't miss it. I don't miss it. Bells aren't dropping at 3:00 in the morning to go lift Granny off the floor. Because she got up to go to the bathroom and then slid off the edge of the bed, not catching this run or doing this or doing this. And driving home today, and yesterday driving home, and it hit me. I don't miss the runs. I miss the excitement. I miss the adrenaline dump. I miss the sound of, racing that 42,000-pound sports car, lights and sirens down the road. I miss the sound of the horn. I miss the sound of the cue. But I don't miss the runs. I don't miss the fatal car crashes, the pediatric cardiac arrest. It's so from that aspect, I'm glad I'm done. But also from that aspect, there is the missing it part. And like I said, it's taken me about 2.5 years to hit that of, it's okay to accept that there's stuff about it that you can miss that wasn't the nasty runs. You don't have to miss hearing a young lady scream over your shoulder while you're doing chest compressions on her grandmother at her wedding reception. That's not anything to miss, but that's something to process and deal with and to get off your shoulders and off your chest. And where maybe you can't open up about that at the firehouse because you may be facing a bunch of guys who at the next fire are like, man, is this dude going to bail on me, or is he going to get the job done? Come out here, sit with me, look me right square in the eye and say, this sucked. Having to extricate homeboy out of his pickup truck that he just tacoed the entire front end around a 6-foot oak tree, and he's in XYZ condition. That sucked. It sucked to look down and see this. Yeah, I get it, bro. What about it sucked for you? Well, there was this and this and this and this. Yeah, I get it. And then getting to that point of where those participants who are coming out are open enough and feel comfortable enough that, hey, man, it's good that you're getting this, but I can't take you any further. You have to start talking with an actual professional. You know what? I'm recruit school. That professional out there is your house captain. And that's who you need to sit down and talk to, not just the senior guy on shift.
Right.
Go sit down, start working this stuff out so that, your career ends at 32 instead of 28 years, or, that you get to even 20 years instead of 14, 15, 16. Do that so that you're not falling deeper into depression because somebody else pulled the plug on your career. And it's not because you were fired. It's because you didn't take your car to the mechanic for maintenance.
Self-care is very important.
Yes. But we also need to get into the administrations. These battalion chiefs, assistants, divisions, chiefs, district commanders, stuff like that. And, and that dude 2 weeks ago was just and now I got to write him up for being an asshole on scene. Well, hey, instead of writing him up, why don't you sit down and see what's going on? Something happened with his kids. Was he have that run that is just eating at him? God forbid he catch his wife cheating. Before paperwork just starts getting flung around and suspensions handed out, once you find out what's going on, and that was one of the things that, as I was walking out the door for the last time, that was brought up to me was, man, we should have looked deeper. And at the time, I was very bitter. I'm not going to lie. I was bitter. I was pissed. And I looked around looking at him and said, well, you didn't. And now I can't come back to work. So piss off. Whereas now using the tools that have been provided to me over the years and pulling my head out of my own ass, I shouldn't have said that as I walked out the door. I should have maybe turned it around and said, hey, I can't do the job anymore, but how can I help you to recognize if this is going on with one of the guys on the floor? And instead of throwing paper, sit down, bring him in your office, be like, dude, what is going on?
Right.
I mean, even go so far as to, grab the badge off your chest, sit it on the table. Be like, look, I'm not the chief right now. I'm just a dude that wants to know what's going on. And until stuff like that happens, and this is going to keep happening.
Yeah. And
it sucks, but the stigma.
That's something that we're definitely trying to break, is the stigma. I know we've worked with therapists and counselors, and we've had psychologists come on here and therapists come on here and try to help us to understand more about that stigma and how we can affect change and change that stigma. So that's something that we're kind of working towards, is trying to break that stigma so that, the first responders can get help and not have to be in fear of losing their jobs because they're seeking help.
Yeah.
So that they can feel comfortable with going to their commanding officers and saying, hey, this is going on, can I get some help? Or, can you talk with me a little bit and then cool me off, or whatever the situation is,
Mm-hmm.
instead of just giving you the boot or just looking at you out of the corner of your eye and saying, no, we don't want you here anymore. It's pretty cold, and it's sad. You've been in the department for what, nearly 30 years, 20 something years?
28 years. Yeah. Nearly 30.
Yeah, nearly 30 years. Sad. Yeah. It'd be kind of hard to not want to be bitter about it.
I think especially the first couple of weeks, my wife would barely even talk to me. And it wasn't because she was disgusted or pissed off or any of that. It's unfortunately she was afraid. Because I'll admit I became explosive. And she didn't deserve it. And, when I got my head pulled out of my butt for the first time, I was crying when I walked up to her, and I gave her a big hug and I said, I'm sorry, you didn't deserve any of that. And, I tell everybody I'm married to a woman that I don't deserve, because she looked at me and she goes, that wasn't you. That was all of this starting to come out. And yeah, you're seeing this mental health professional, but you still don't know how to deal with this stuff that's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got 30 years of crap that's just
piled up. Yeah.
And I will say one thing about my therapist, kind of going back to the whole I love to hate her and I hate to love her. A couple of months back, we were switching banks. We were going from one to the other because the bank that we were with just pissed us off. And so we were finishing up getting our accounts set up and everything for switchover. And there was a lady out of New Mexico that she's kind of sort of doing the same thing that we are, but she's in the very, very infancy stage of it. So she asked if she could call to talk about going through the stuff for getting a nonprofit status. And meeting at the bank was taking a little bit longer than what I thought it was going to. So the phone rings. I look at my wife. I was like, okay, can you handle the rest of this? This is that call. She's like, yeah, sure. So I run outside. About half a mile to the northwest of where I was standing is a little community airport. Well, I'm standing outside talking on the phone with this lady, and I look up, and this plane's flipping and twisting in the air. My first thought was, man, he's awful low to be doing tricks. And then it turned straight down and shot straight into the ground. 300 yards away from me, behind the gas station building, and I heard the plane hit the ground. I'm on the phone with the lady. I was like, plane crash, and hung up and started. I haven't been on the job for a little over 2 years. And first thing I do is hang up with her, start running towards it, call 911. Hey, greatest feeling ever is getting the dispatcher to sit there and almost say, holy shit, over the phone, because it's a recorded line.
Right.
But I'm running over there. I was like, hey, I'm at the Circle, running up to the Circle K gas station at Main and Sheets here in Greenwood, and a plane just crashed behind the station. He goes, what? I said, yeah, plane crash. Get everybody started. I'll call you back in a minute. Go running back there. And even as I'm telling you about it, I can see everything as if I'm back there right now. Get running around the backside of the gas station. I'm yelling at people, unless you're medical, get away. And people are just kind of sitting there and they're staring at the plane. They're looking at me, they're looking back at the plane. And I go up there and, albeit the cockpit was extraordinarily clean, there was no blood, none of the stuff that we're used to seeing on horrific crashes, but it was very clear that she was deceased. Went through everything, talked to the cop that was there. I felt kind of bad for him because he looked like he was 12 years old and his hands were shaking as he was taking notes of what I was saying. Go walking back across the road. My wife's standing outside the bank and she's like, really? I was like, I didn't even realize I was running there until I was halfway there. And make it even better, I ran across 5 lanes of traffic. So I'm lucky I didn't get hit too. But it was the first time since I had walked out of the firehouse for the last time that adrenaline dump hit. But the difference this time was I didn't get back on a rig and go back to station. I got back in the truck with my wife and our youngest son and came back to the house to sit down and eat lunch. And I sat at the dining room table and I fell apart. And shortly after that, I sent my therapist a text message saying, hey, did you hear about the plane crash in Greenwood? And she replies back, no, are you okay? And I text back to her, said, fuck no, it crashed 300 yards in front of me and I ran to it. she calls me up right away. She goes, "Hey, I want you in here tomorrow. We're going to do EMDR." I tried EMDR once before, was not a fan of that style of it. It was watching little ball go back and forth. My ADHD is so wonderful that the digital ball that was slinging side by side, I didn't notice so much that it was the ball, but that when it was over here, it was one shape. When it was over here, it was another shape. Its colors as it went back and forth. I mean, just all this weird stuff. And this is one of the things that my therapist laughs at me all the time about is she goes, "You are so insanely detail oriented. It blows my mind." I was like, "Well, I mean, when you got to write reports, you need to be detail oriented." She goes, "No, you were probably the most detail oriented of all my first responders that I deal with." Like, oh, okay. But she's like, "I want you up here tomorrow because I want to do EMDR on you." She goes, "I'm not going to lie. I'm really excited because this will be the first time in my entire career that I get to do EMDR within 24 hours of a massive incident like this happening." Brother, let me tell you, I felt like I got hit by a train after going through that. And I also felt guilty because, that night, in between seeing it and going up to see her, it was same old story. I saw the plane crashing over and over and over again. I saw myself running around the back. I saw the pilot slumped over in the cockpit and seeing all the people. I mean, all the detail of it, everything. I could smell the fuel. I could smell the grass. I could hear the people. I could feel the warmth of the day, all that stuff. Get up there to her office, and the one that she does, you wear the headphones. It's got the little bonking that goes back and forth, and then you hold these little finger pucks that they vibrate. My God, it annoyed the hell out of me. But 2 hours later, is when the guilt hit me because what was right here became like this little ball that just went up on a shelf. And it was, well, I know that happened. I was there. I saw it happen. But instead of being stuck here, it's just sitting there. And I can go back and I can look at it. I can sit here and talk about it. I pull it off the shelf and be like, "Hey, this is what it was." But then when we get done talking, I'm going to put it back on that shelf. And having never experienced that before, because a lot of us carry with us the, man, could I have done something better? Could I have gotten there faster? Could I have worked harder? Could I have, this? And, then hearing the scream from, family members, which sticks with you too. Man, could I have done something different? Could I have explained that a different way? Blah, 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 blah. It's right here. Now, like I said, I can pull it out. I can look at it. I can go back over it. I can revisit the details. But then when I'm done with it, I put it right back up there. And then I can turn around and I can sleep tonight. Whereas the day that happened, I think I slept about 2 hours that night because it kept crashing over and over and over again. Driving home from the bank after it happened, I could hear the engine of the plane in the back of my head for the rest of the night. Driving from home up to the therapist's office, I could hear, that motor. But then when I left her office, I didn't hear anything. I didn't feel anything. I didn't smell anything. And then, like I said, I felt guilty because now I'm not feeling any of this. So it is very complex.
Yeah.
And it's weird how this PTSD depression crap works. But
yeah, it's definitely complex.
Yeah. But that's okay. If that's, come here, talk it out, get it out. No, you know what? Not only am I not going to, but I can't put you through EMDR, but I can recommend you to somebody who does, and you can go up that way because, like just now, let me tell you how it worked for me, and maybe hopefully it can work for you. If that particular way doesn't work, try a different way.
Speaking about Horses for Heroes, how can listeners of the 8158 podcast, Stories of Sacrifice, get involved to support your mission, whether it's through volunteering, donating, or spreading the word?
So as far as the volunteer side, send us an email to horses4heroes 2025@gmail.com. Or you can call me 317. You can hit me up on TikTok. There's 2 Horses for Heroes accounts. The one that you want to hit it's the @, the American flag, and then Horses, the number 4 Heroes. You can get me that way. We're on Facebook at Horses for Heroes. I'm pretty sure that one is Horses, F-O-R-Heroes. The profile picture for that is a horseshoe with H4H in the center of it. Any number of those ways, welcome you to come out. If you just want to volunteer to do that, that's great. But that does remind me, if you want to come out, but you want to bring your boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, whatever with you, bring your kids with you, you're more than welcome. Our facility, both Horses for Heroes side and business side, is very family friendly. We're family accepting, especially on the Horses for Heroes side. Bring your family with you for support. We've got a little playground out back, little swing set that, your kids can play on. If they want to run around in the small pasture and play with the goats, they can do that. Just watch out for Jet, because like I said, he's tolerant for about 45 minutes and he starts headbutting people. Great source of entertainment for me. Not everybody's a fan of it, but yeah. And then, Ludo von Slider, the world famous Holstein mini cow, he loves being loved on. If you just want to come to hang out, not talk, not take part in the program, but you just want to see the animals, bring some carrots and some apples with you. You can sit there and do that. We'll hang out with you while that's going on. No pressure to talk. No pressure for any of it. We're here today so we can get you through tomorrow. And if it means we just hang out and stare at each other, hang out and stare at each other. If you want to get deeply involved, we will welcome you. If you just kind of want to show up every now and then, hang out for 15, 20 minutes, look at a horse, look at a cow, look at a goat, and then get back in your vehicle and leave. If that's what it takes to stop you from leaving your family with the unanswerable question, then we're 1,000% happy with that. Reach out. We're here.
Right. That's pretty awesome. I think this is a very amazing program. Horses are very majestic and beautiful creatures, and I've always loved horses. So I think what you're doing is a wonderful thing, and I hope you continue to keep doing this, and hopefully you get the support and help that you need to continue with this program, because I think it's going to help a lot of people.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will. I know you're in Indiana, so small areas. I don't know, do you plan on expanding or anything like that? Or
I figure taking this next year to really get our feet underneath us and get solidly established. And then we're not affiliated with each other, but there are other Horses for Heroes, Heroes for Horses, all different types of variations of that same title throughout the United States. I would love to set up a network between all of us that are doing what we're doing, for the point of, let's say somebody here travels out to Arizona and they call up and they're like, dude, I'm out here, I'm losing my mind. Just like, hey, hold on a second, show my Gen X age here, flip through the Rolodex and be like, hey, where in Arizona you at? Scottsdale? Okay. Susie Q, 5 miles outside of Scottsdale, is another, Horses and Heroes affiliate. So I'm going to text you the number, get a hold of her. I'm going to text her, let her know that I'm sending you her way. So we can have that accountability and availability throughout the nation. I've got one guy up in Oregon right now that he saw something on Facebook about us, and he does kind of a veterans focus program, but he called me up and he's like, hey dude, this popped up, blah, blah, blah. What are you about? Told him. He said, well, hey, if you don't mind, I got a guy, he's out there for the Indy 500 and he's kind of having a moment. He's looking for somebody that can just come over, meet up with them, and hang out for a little bit. It's like, yeah, sure. So we swapped information and everything. And it's the same thing. If I've got somebody that goes out there, kind of the same thing. Hey, bro, if this dude's in your area, he needs a hookup, I'm sending him your way. Okay, cool. So
right.
That's what I'd like to do. It's kind of also why I put that post on TikTok the other day of, hey, let's interact more with each other. Because there's a Chrissy Gibbous, I believe it's how you say her last name. Her and I were talking on the phone the other day, and she goes, it's great what we're doing for everybody else, but are we still taking care of ourselves? Are we supporting ourselves? And why, so I've got to give credit to her for that of, hey, why don't we develop this group that we can hit each other up.
Right.
Hey man, I had this dude show up today and it's just, I got to get this off my chest. Oh yeah. Okay, bro. No problem. What's going on? And just take it from there. So, if a couple of Gen X comedians can make a big presence on TikTok, why can't we?
Yeah. I'd be pulling out the yellow pages. I remember the phone book was like this thick.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
My mom, you have to use it to sit on. I see.
Yeah.
The high chair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Forgot about Yellow Pages.
Yeah. Yeah, that shows our age.
Oh yeah. My wife gives me hell all the time because she's 8 years younger than me.
Yeah.
But then I'll look at her and be like, yeah, I may be older, but you've been diagnosed geriatric already. Because she was over 35 when she got pregnant with our son. And I guess when you're over 35 and pregnant, they call it a geriatric pregnancy. I was like,
Oh my gosh.
You're geriatric. I'm not. I like living dangerously. I mean, I screwed up already and married a horse girl. So, why not see how far I can take this? But yeah, I love her, dude. She's amazing. She's the peanut butter to my jelly.
All right. That's pretty awesome. We all got to have that combination. I know I got mine.
Yep. Awesome.
She's my boss.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not saying that she wears the pants in the family. She's just my boss because I let her take control of all of this stuff. She's just smarter than I am.
I wear the pants. She just tells me what color.
Exactly. What's one message you'd like to leave with our audience today about hope, healing, or community?
When you first start the journey, it's the absolute hardest thing you're going to do. For me, it took me to even darker places than I thought I was in, but I'm coming out on the other end. And as Brent Jones told me, you're not a failure. You come out on the other end, you are a success. Don't try to do it on your own. Look for professional mental health help. But if you're nervous about going to it, find somebody who's willing to stand there with you and walk you through the start of that journey. Because there's a lot of us out here and we're willing to help. And as hard and dark as it is, it's 100% worth it. Because at the end of the day, and on the other end of that journey, to be able to hug your loved one because you made it home, the best feeling on the face of the earth.
I appreciate you coming on here and sharing with us your story and talking about Horses for Heroes. I really hope that you guys grow and are successful with this program. I think it's a wonderful thing.
I'm humbled for you inviting myself and Horses for Heroes to be a part of your podcast. I'm still learning to accept the support and help without, trying to do it all on my own. And it's getting through these, what some people see as little steps, but for me, what I see as an absolute huge step, very rewarding and very acknowledging of what we're doing and where it's going.
I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah. Hopefully it extends a lot of careers.
Absolutely. Extends a lot of careers and keeps the retired ones still with us.
Yes.
It's very important. That's all I have for you today, Bill. I really appreciate you coming on here. It's been awesome talking with you. If there's anything that we can do to help support you guys, just let us know. If you want me to plug you again on the radio station, I could do that.
Yeah, that was awesome to hear that.
Yeah. You're very welcome for that. It was an honor to do that, and anytime.
Awesome. Thank you much. I'm going to get inside. It's starting to get kind of cold out here.
Yes, it is that time, and Indiana is not going to get any warmer. It's just going to get colder.
not for a few months.
Trust me. I lived in Montana for 20 years, and I used to live up in Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
Northwest Ohio, over by Fort Wayne.
Yeah. I was just up in Union City the past couple days, so.
Yeah. You guys are going to get a lot of nasty weather coming soon.
Yep.
You're like, don't remind me.
Yeah. We had a snap last year where we had 3 days where it was wind chill 40 below. We still got the horses to take care of.
Yeah.
So we were out in the barn 3 times a day for those 40 days, or 3 days, taking them out in the arena and walking them around a little bit. So we pick their stall, throw some more hay to them. Yeah, I mean, we couldn't let them outside. It's just take care.
Have a good one. All right, everybody. That was Bill. He is the founder and he runs Horses4Heroes. That's Horses for Heroes. They use the horses for emotional support. So anybody who wants to get involved with that, reach out to Bill. He's on TikTok, or you can go on to Google him on the website there and check it out. Show your support, show your love, donate, volunteer. Anything and everything helps. Spread the word. And if you have anybody that's in the area, reach out and send your people his way so that they can get help. All right, everybody. Say 158. Have a good night.
Thank you for joining us on 8158 Stories of Sacrifice. Every story we share is a tribute to the courage and resilience of first responders and their families. If this episode impacted, encouraged, or inspired you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who supports first responders. Follow us on all social media platforms at 8158 Podcast for updates. 8158 Stories of Sacrifice is a team effort. Rico brings the stories to life through casting, writing, original music, and editing. Brianne Shipley as production manager, handling booking, social media, graphics, promotion, marketing, website management, and logo design. Please visit our website at 8158podcast.com. For questions, collaborations, or to share your story, our email address is contactus@8158podcast.com. Until next time, let's continue to honor the legacies and remember the sacrifices of those who serve, every brave man and woman on the front lines, protecting and defending us all. This is Rico signing off and honoring 8158.